Hello and welcome to SDK TV, powered by Data Meaning and brought to you by Darren Holmblad. Today we're going to show you how to create a custom project grouping for the projects page. And this is actually a customization that was conceptualized by a user on the MicroStrategy forum, and I thought it could be a good outlet to show you many of the aspects of the MicroStrategy Web SDK and how they can all be pieced together to produce one customization. So what we're going to do first is show you the out-of-the-box look and feel of the page. Then we're going to deploy a custom plugin, and then we're going to walk you through all of the components that were customized to achieve this customization. So first off, I'm sure you all are familiar with this page. It's the projects page, and we can see all the projects that the user has access to, and they're rendered, in some columns. And real quick, I just want to show you how I found the component which was used to customize this page. So this is a useful, not trick, but useful way to determine the component used to render the page. So if you use the browser's developer tools and kind of zoom in or inspect a section, you can look at the HTML and look for keywords in the HTML like transform or style. So we can see here that the project style is being used to render this entire component for all the projects. So if we bring up the MicroStrategy web customization editor and go into the styles, we can look at the project style and see what it is comprised of. So we can see here we have a project's transform, and we can look at the API to see what methods are available from that. We also have a style layout. So let's go ahead and actually look at that layout. If we go into the web and if directory in your application, go to XML and then go to layouts, we should be able to locate the project layout and open that in the text editor, and we can see the layout and the different render methods which are used to render the projects. So let me go ahead now and deploy this customization, and then we will step through exactly what was done to achieve it. So once my server is back up and running, I'm going to refresh the projects page. And we can see that the look and feel of the projects page has changed. So bear in mind this is just a proof of concept, and this plugin can be used as a starting point to produce a production ready customization. But what I've done is I've rendered 3 different groups, and these groups are, you can highlight them and you can also click them to drill into them. And when you drill into the group, you can see the projects that are associated with that group, and there's a button here to go back, and you can drill down into the group again and look at the various projects. So how exactly was this achieved? So as I said, the project style was utilized to render the project's page. So what I did is overrode that by creating a custom style. So I overrode the project style, and I pointed to a custom transform which extends the project's transform, and we'll look at that in a second. And I also overrode the project's layout and change it around to render my own custom HTML. So first, let's go ahead and look at the project's transform, which is used to render this page, or used to render the HTML. So we can see here the custom project transform extends project's transforms. And what we've done is we've created some render methods. And as you know, render methods are called on layout files. And we'll actually bring up the custom layout file as well. Go back to the plugin. So the layout file is found in webinif XML layouts, project layout. So if we open our custom project layout.xml file, we can see that it's a lot simpler or a lot smaller than the out-of-the-box file. So what I've done is I've stripped out a majority of the content that's within the table MSTR large icon view and pulled out all of the out-of-the-box render methods and created my own render methods, which are called here. So we can see I call a render project groups and render project JSON. So if we go back in the custom projects transform, we can see that we do have these methods: render project groups, render project JSON, and some other methods. So let's go ahead and step through these methods at a high level and give you a general understanding of what they do. So before we go into that, I actually want to cover one more thing, which is a properties file. So properties files can be used to store information such as connectivity that would be dynamic, but you don't want to necessarily hard code it in your class file, so it can be read from a properties file. And so in this instance, what I'm doing is, instead of hard coding the groups, I'm storing them in a properties file and reading them dynamically. So we can see here we have some structured format, and we have a integer ID, a group name, and a group description. And we can see in our custom projects transform, we have a string that stores the project group's name, and then we have a resource bundle, which is actually loading that resource file. So in the render projects groups, after we load the resource bundle, we're going to loop through all of the groups that are set in the project group.properties file. So we're going to loop through all the keys, and when we do that, we're going to start to build some custom HTML. So I found that it was easiest to utilize the MicroStrategy tag object to build these different HTML tags. So you can see here that we have created a parent div outside of the loop, and then inside of the loop for each parent we're going to create a child div and assign a CSS class and an attribute. And the attribute is important because it denotes the parent group ID, which is stored within the project group.properties file. It's the integer before the equal sign. And then once we assign a key, then we're going to assign the name, and we're going to assign maybe the group description, and then we're going to go add all of those to the parent. So after the loop is done, we're going to add the children to the parent, and then the parent div is going to be rendered to the markup output for the render project groups. So that's how we are rendering the parent project groups, and if we inspect these elements, we can see that that's the case. So the group parent is this parent div right here. We can see set ID group parent, and then these custom groups are the children of that, which are set within the while loop. Custom group MSTR project item. So after we render the project groups, we then render all of the projects, and that is done by the render project JSON. And it's not really JSON. I need to change that method name, but regardless, this is the method that performs that. So before we render any of the projects, we're going to render this custom button that we see right here, and this custom button is project group back, and we can see that we have that as the ID CSS class, and we've set an attribute to point to a PNG image. So once that's rendered, we're actually going to utilize an out-of-the-box method call that is used by the project's transform called getProjectList. And this is actually called on the out-of-the-box layout file, which is how I figured out which method call to use. And when we do that, we get an array list of projects, and we're just going to loop through those. And when we loop through those, we're going to cast it to a project information, and I recommend that you look up that in the API to see what's available from it. And with that, we are going to build some project objects. So we're just going to assign an ID, a name, a server name, project status, project description, and what I'm doing here is I'm actually assigning a random custom group ID. But what you can do is within the description of a project, you can maybe set some custom parameter that you could pull out programmatically from the description and then get the ID from that. So maybe it's custom equals integer, and you pull out this information and then get the integer and then remove it from the description before it's rendered. So I kind of just stubbed this out if you wanted to achieve it that way. And we're going to create an object from all this information and send that back into this loop. And based on that, we're going to start creating divs and other HTML elements like we did for the parent. So it's a little more complex, and we're actually utilizing a lot of the CSS classes for the out-of-the-box project style. So the style remains the same. We can see that it uses the project icon and the same text. And so we have assigned, an image span, some custom divs, project icon, project description, server name. So we add all of this HTML and add it to the parent div, and once the parent div is completed and the loop is done, we're going to render it to the markup output again. So that's actually how we render, and if we examine this, we can see all of the custom projects are in the HTML even though they're not shown, and we do so with a custom CSS class and change the display with CSS. So if we look over here, we can see display as none. So the next component that was used was the action to show and hide the groups and then show and hide the projects. So this was achieved with some JavaScript, and that JavaScript was added to the page from the project's layout.xml file. And we can see here in a CData tag that basically just spits out to the HTML whatever is in the CData tag. So I've placed some script tags, and I'm just using jQuery, and then I'm calling a custom JavaScript file, custom-welcome.js, and if we look in the HTML, we can see these two files are being loaded. So everyone's probably familiar with jQuery, but let me load up this custom welcome.javascript file so we can see what it does. So it's pretty straightforward. I've assigned some click listeners, and I've assigned them to the custom group class. So we can see here all of these elements have a class custom group. And so when they're clicked, what we're going to do is we're going to hide the custom group parent and then get all the children, and then make a comparison about the group ID and the parent group ID on the two elements. And then we're going to hide the group parent. Likewise, if you click on the up button, we're going to hide the project group back, this icon again. We're going to hide that. Then we're going to get all of the elements or the projects that are not currently hidden and hide them. We're going to add a class hidden. And then what we're going to do is we're going to toggle back the group parent. So it's really just using some basic front-end JavaScript, and jQuery isn't necessary for this, obviously, but I just used it for ease of use. And so just as a reminder, the JavaScript was added on the layout file so the load order could be handled properly. And then also utilized a custom CSS file, welcome page CSS. Just has some custom style. Mainly the display is the important aspect, so I can show and hide the different items. So that is everything as far as this customization goes. As I said, this is provided as a kind of proof of concept, and all of this information will be placed on the Bitbucket account that I have, or the GitHub account that I have, and that link will be posted below the video. But feel free to post any questions or message me. Thank you.